Good morning, children. Today, I, Prachi Alavadi, your social science teacher, would like to continue the last video, that is, in which we studied about the different types of forces which change our earth. In the last video, we studied about endogenic forces, the forces that act inside the earth, which are volcano, landslides, or earthquakes. Today we are going to study about the exogenic forces. What are exogenic forces? Exogenic forces are basically the forces which occur on or above the earth's surface, and their main element through which these forces take place are air and water. For example, waterfall. When a waterfall is formed, there are two types of layer of rocks. One is the hard rock and the soft rock. When the water starts to flow, the harder rock is cut out and it forms like a step, and the softer rocks is eroded and it forms the waterfall. Then river. What are the different forms of changes that a river brings to our earth's surface? First is the meander. Meander is a type of snake pattern formed by the river, and it erodes the sediments from the outside of the bend. From the outer part of the bend, the material is eroded and deposited them on the inside. Like for example, from here where the cursor is, it erodes it from the here and deposits the water load over here in the inside. Then the Oxbow lake. Oxbow, bow means this shape. Here it's called as Oxbow lake because it is U-shaped basically. And when the meanders widen and sometimes they are cut off from the main river, so this type of landform is formed in a U shape and it is called as a Oxbow lake, and it resembles like a bow pin of an oxbow. Floodplains. Floodplains are the basically flat areas next to the river, which are near to the river, and it stretches from the banks of the river to the outer edges of a valley. And when the flood comes, it reaches out to the outward area and forms the floodplains, as the water after some times is retained by the earth or comes back to the river when the water level decreases, and so forms the floodplains. Then comes the leaves. Leaves are basically the areas which are totally near to the where the river is flowing. What happens is the particles basically in the large particles and or the small particles, they deposit first near the river flow along the banks, and they gradually increase in size. The size of the deposition increase. You can see in the first picture it's very low, in the second it's increasing, and the third it has increased a lot. These high areas are called as leaves. Then the delta. We all know that rivers go and merge into some or the other sea or the ocean. When the sea or is merging the river inside it, what happens is the river water and the sea or the ocean water merge. The river is broken into small distributaries, small channels, because the water's flow decreases as it reaches near the ocean. And the area so formed around here where these distributaries channel are there, this is called as delta. This is the work of the river and the changes brought by the river around us. Next we are going to study about the sea. Sea waves. Sea waves also change our earth's surface. First of all, we will be studying about sea caves. There are large rocks in the middle of the ocean of the sea. Due to the continuous waves, these rocks get cracked and slowly start to erode. This erosion continues and forms a cave-like structure, so they are called as sea caves. And because of the continuous erosion and hitting of the sea waves to these caves, these cavities increase and become a shape of arc. So they are called as sea arcs. And the sea wave action is continued, and the erosion is being continued. So finally what happens is this arc also breaks down and only a stack is left. When these eroded material from the rocks reaches the shore and settles down there, it forms the sea beaches. So this is the change caused by the sea waves. First the formation of sea caves, then sea arcs, stacks, and then sea beaches. Now the glaciers. Glaciers basically are the rivers of ice. These ice is continuously remaining in the mountainous region. Sometimes because of the heat, these glaciers start to melt and fall down. Along with it, the sediments, the material, the rocks, the sand, whatever the material is below the ice, it also erodes from there, and thus it forms the glacial moraines. Basically, moraine is the sediment deposited by a glacier. Then the work of the wind, we can basically find this in the desert areas. Formation of mushroom rocks. These mushroom rocks are basically the rocks formed in the shape of mushroom. Because of the wind action in the desert area, the lower portion of the rocks are eroded and form like a stem. The upper area remains as it is, and these rocks thus form the shape of the mushroom. So this are called as mushroom rocks. The work of wind here also creates sand dunes and loess. Sand dunes, as we all know, dunes means hills. Sand means these dunes of sand, hills of sand. These hills are formed because of the activity of the wind. When the wind blows, it takes along the particles of the sand with it. When it settles down, when the wind stops, the sand in it settles down at a place and thus forms a hill type structure called as sand dune. Next is loess. Loess basically is the sedimentary deposits. They are the finer part of sand. It also contains clay in it and silt, which gives it the binding property and makes the soil a bit fertile in the desert area where the plants can grow. This is called as loess. So this is all that we can study about the work of the sand, wind, water, and air. Thank you for today. We will meet in the next video.